on the networking interview questions. So in our first session we will cover the networking basics like OSI layer, TCP IP, ARP and basic routing and switching. So let's start with today's sessions. So basic networking interview questions. Let's start with the OSI layer. So what is an OSI layer? It is basically an abstraction of the components of communication, different level of communications between two machines, and there are 7 layers. There are 7 layers in OSI. The 7 layers are application, presentation, session, network layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and finally physical layer. So the first 3 layers are called as software layers, and the remaining 4 layers are called as hardware layers. So normally application engineers will deal with the software layers, and the networking engineer or system engineers will deal with the hardware layers. Okay, if you don't remember all the layers, then you can remember the statement all people seem to need. Data processing. So the initial alphabet will remind you of each layer. Okay, like A stands for application, P for presentation, likewise. So if you remember this statement, you can remember all the 7 layers of the OSI. Let me share the PPT with you. Okay, let me put it into the presentation mode. So what is an OSI layer? It was published in 1984 by the International Organization for Standardization. So it is a hierarchical architecture with 7 layers, and each with a different level of abstraction and function. It is today used as a reference for describing networking protocols. Network protocols, sending ID professionals, and interfacing with multiple architectures. So basically, before we go with the interview questions, let's understand the OSI, the functionality of the OSI layer with the help of a PPT animation. So when a user sends, when a packet travels from source to destination, it first crosses the application layer. Okay, the application layer is basically decides which application will be used to, present the information. So the protocol that works on this application layer are the HTTP and HTTPS, SMTP or FTP. Second is presentation. So presentation basically will decide which code, like Unicode or ASCII code, will be used to present the data to the application layer. Okay. So it also does decompression and compression and decompression, and converting the data into the Unicode or the ASCII code formats. Also it can do encryption and decryption. When the packet goes to session layer. So at session layer, the session layer is responsible for creating a session, maintaining a session, and terminating a session. This is done at the software layer, and as I said earlier, the top 3 layers, application engineers deal with the top 3 layers. The next 4 layers are the hardware layers, and the fourth layer is transport layer. When packet reaches to the fourth layer, it is encapsulated with the TCP header, and the TCP header plus the data is called as segment. And TCP header plus data is also called as is also used to configure maximum segment size. And the protocols that work at transport layer are TCP and UDP. So the unique thing about the transport layer is you will often hear about TCP port or the UDP port and segments. Next comes the network layer. When the data reaches the network layer, it is again encapsulated in layer 3 header. So layer 3 header plus the TCP header plus data is called as packet. It is referred as packet. And the IP is a protocol that works at the network layer, and this network layer follows IP addressing schema. Okay. You will later hear about class A, class B, class C, class D and class E IP addressing, and private and public IP addresses. Okay, we will discuss that in depth later. Next comes data link layer. Again, at this layer the packet is encapsulated in a layer 2 header. So layer 2 header along with the IP header and the TCP header is called as frames, is referred as frames. And at this layer the address MAC address follows. MAC address is nothing but physical address, and it consists of 48 bit. So out of 48 bit, 24 bit is assigned by the vendor, okay, and the remaining 24 bit is the actual physical address of the device. So almost all the devices in the world of networking will have a physical address. Next comes the physical layer. When the packet reaches physical layer, it is converted into bits and bytes, and then it is sent to the destination. Once the packet reaches the destination, it will cross from the bottom layer. It will cross all the layers from the bottom to the topmost layer, and eventually it will be de-encapsulated at each layer. All the headers will be stripped off, okay, and it will reach the application layer where the data will be presented to the user. So you will see that at transport layer there is a port number that is assigned. At network layer it's an IP address, and at data link layer it's a MAC address. And the data unit at transport layer is called as segment, at network layer it is called as packet, and at data link layer it is called as frame. So let's move on to the interview questions. Okay, let me just open the PDF for that. The interview questions are like, how many layers are there in the OSI? 7. What is an OSI? Abstraction of different components and data packets flows from source to destination. What are the top 3 layers of OSI called as? Software layer, and consists of application, presentation and session layer. What is a segment? Data unit at transport layer or fourth layer is called a segment. Data is encapsulated into TCP header. TCP header plus data is called segment, and it is also used to calculate maximum segment size. What layer TCP UDP works? Layer 4. What is unique about transport layer? The TCP UDP port and the data unit is called as segment. What is layer 3? What is the third layer data unit called as? Packet, IP address. IP header plus TCP header plus data. What is unique about third layer? The data unit is called as packet, and layer 3 and layer follows the IP address. MAC address works at which layer? Layer 2. What is the data unit called at layer 2? Frame. What is the size of MAC address? 48 bit. 24 bit is that of vendor, and plus 24 bit is the unique physical address. Every device will have its own physical address. And what is encapsulation and decapsulation? As we have seen in the earlier PPT, at each layer the protocol information is added. So that adding of protocol information is called encapsulation. It happens at the sending end, and at the receiving end the additional information about the protocol is removed, or it is stripped off. So, that's it for today's first session. I hope it will be helpful for you during the interviews. Thank you.